There's something you need to understand about women, right? Especially when it comes to emotional disconnection. Cheating doesn't start in a bed, it starts in the mind. It begins long before she ever touches someone else. It begins with the lies she tells, not to you, but to herself. The first lie she tells is, I'm fine. That simple phrase is the mask she wears when she's already checked out emotionally. When she says, I'm fine, what she really means is, I'm exhausted, I'm unseen, I'm lonely. But she doesn't say that. She convinces herself that silence is strength. She tells herself it's better to stay quiet than to start another argument. What most men miss is that emotional distance doesn't happen overnight. It happens when she starts suppressing every disappointment, every unmet need, every time she feels unappreciated. And when she finally says, I'm fine, that's the warning. That's the sound of someone detaching quietly. The second lie she tells is, he's just a friend. It always starts harmless. A few jokes, a few messages. He listens in a way you stopped doing. He asks how her day was and actually waits for the answer. She convinces herself it's innocent, but in her heart, she knows she's already crossing a line. Not physical yet, but emotional. When a woman starts confiding in another man more than the one she's with, she's shifting her loyalty, her emotional energy, her softness, piece by piece. That's how emotional cheating begins. Quietly, casually, in conversations that don't mean anything. But they do. They mean everything. When a woman says, I'm fine, that's the first red flag most men completely ignore. Those two simple words sound harmless, but they hold a quiet storm behind them. You see, I'm fine is never about being fine. It's about emotional survival. It's about a woman trying to convince herself that silence is strength, that pretending she's okay will make the pain go away. But what she doesn't realize is that every time she hides her feelings, she's building walls that slowly turn love into distance. A woman doesn't disconnect overnight. It starts with little disappointments that she brushes off, the forgotten compliment, the unreturned affection, the way he doesn't look up when she speaks. At first, she tells herself it's nothing. She gives him the benefit of the doubt because that's what love does. It forgives, it understands, it waits. But over time, that waiting turns into emptiness. She starts to feel unseen, unheard, unvalued. And when that happens, something inside her begins to shut down. She becomes quieter, she smiles less. Her laughter feels forced. She used to tell him everything, her dreams, her fears, her random thoughts. But now she keeps them to herself because she feels like he's not really listening. And when she says, I'm fine, what she really means is, I've stopped trying. That's the part men miss. They think the fight has ended, but the truth is, she's just stopped caring enough to fight. The scariest part about emotional disconnection is how quiet it is. There's no dramatic ending, no loud argument, no final goodbye. It's subtle. It's the silence after a message left unread. It's the night spent scrolling instead of talking. It's the distance between two people sitting next to each other, but feeling worlds apart. And because she doesn't complain anymore, he assumes everything's okay. He tells himself she's happy because she's not angry. But indifference is far more dangerous than anger. Anger means she still feels something. Indifference means she's done. When a woman starts hiding her pain, she's also protecting herself from disappointment. She's tired of repeating herself. She's tired of asking for effort and getting excuses. So she chooses silence because silence hurts less than rejection. She starts doing everything on her own, comforting herself, validating herself, loving herself, because she's learned she can't depend on him for emotional support. And this is where the real disconnection begins. Men often mistake this emotional withdrawal for maturity. They think she's finally chilled out, but she hasn't calmed down, she's given up. There's a difference between peace and resignation. She's not peaceful, she's numb. That's the quiet phase before the storm. The point where her heart starts looking elsewhere for what it no longer receives. At home, not necessarily another person yet, but another feeling. Attention, warmth, appreciation, even a simple I see you. What most men fail to understand is that emotional intimacy is what anchors a woman to a relationship. When she feels emotionally safe, she'll give her all her time, her love, her loyalty. But once that safety is gone, she starts retreating inward. She becomes her own protector. She starts rewriting the story in her mind, convincing herself that she doesn't need him, that she's better off being emotionally independent. And once she starts believing that, there's no turning back. She'll still show up, still play her role, still do the daily routines, but her presence becomes hollow. Her smile becomes performance. She's there physically, but emotionally, she's already miles away. This is why many men don't even realize their relationship is falling apart until it's already over. Because the breakup doesn't happen on the day she leaves. It happens months before, on the day she decided to stop talking about what hurts her. Fine is the emotional exit door. It's the start of self-protection disguised as composure. She's no longer reacting because she's already accepted that nothing will change. It's not that she stopped loving, it's that she stopped hoping. The irony is, most of the time, the man doesn't mean to neglect her. He's just unaware. He assumes she's strong, that she'll always understand, that her silence means satisfaction. But strength without connection is loneliness. And a woman can only carry that loneliness for so long before it turns into detachment. If a man truly wants to keep his woman, he needs to learn to hear what's not being said, to see beyond the "I'm fine," to realize that behind her calm face might be a heart quietly giving up. Emotional neglect doesn't look dramatic. It looks normal. It looks like two people sitting together with nothing left to say. A woman won't always tell you when she's falling out of love. She'll just start to look for peace in other places, sometimes within herself, sometimes in someone else's understanding. The moment she stops expressing her feelings is the moment she starts detaching from you. So when she says, "I'm fine," don't take her words at face value. Sit with her. Ask her what's really wrong and mean it. Listen to understand, not to respond. Because once she learns to be okay without you, your presence will no longer matter. And when she finally walks away, you'll realize that "I'm fine" was never a statement. It was a goodbye whispered long before she ever left. Cheating is never a sudden mistake. It's a slow collapse that begins with a single thought, a single justification. Before she crosses the line, she creates a story to protect herself from the truth. A story that makes her feel right, even when she's wrong. She tells herself she's just talking, she's just connecting, she's just finding happiness again. But those words are not innocence. They're the quiet lies that make betrayal feel easier to carry. A woman doesn't wake up one day and decide to cheat. It happens when her needs are ignored for too long, when she feels unseen, unheard, and emotionally starved. At first, she tells herself she's strong enough to handle it. She tells herself she doesn't need affection, she doesn't need effort, she doesn't need him. But when another man enters her life and gives her the smallest bit of attention, the kind that feels like warmth after a long winter, she starts to crumble inside. She convinces herself that it's harmless, that she deserves to feel something again. And that's where the lie begins. "It's just a friend," she says. But deep down, she knows it's more than that. Because when you start hiding conversations, when you start waiting for messages, when your heart skips a beat seeing their name pop up, that's not friendship anymore. That's emotional intimacy in disguise. And this is what most people miss. Cheating begins in the mind. It begins the moment she shares her heart with someone she shouldn't. The moment she starts seeking validation outside her relationship, she's already halfway gone. Then comes the second lie: "I deserve to be happy." She repeats this to herself every time the guilt tries to surface. She calls it self-love, she calls it healing, but deep down it's just escape. Real self-love doesn't require lies. Real happiness doesn't come from deception, but she's not thinking clearly anymore. She's chasing relief. She wants to feel seen, wanted, alive. And for a moment she does. But it's not real, it's temporary attention dressed as emotional safety. She tells herself it's okay because her partner stopped caring. She tells herself she's not doing anything wrong because her heart's been broken for too long. But what she doesn't realize is that she's breaking herself even more. Every time she hides, every time she lies, every time she tells herself it's not that deep, she's losing touch with her integrity. She's becoming someone she doesn't even recognize. And soon, the lies she told to protect herself start to destroy her from the inside out. And then, when it all comes crashing down, she says the final lie. It just happened. But nothing just happens. Cheating isn't a random moment of weakness. It's a chain reaction of ignored emotions and unspoken truths. It happens when she convinces herself that being dishonest is better than being alone. It happens when she chooses validation over healing. Every secret message, every deleted text, every late night thought, they're all choices. And every choice leads her closer to that point of no return. The truth is, most women who cheat aren't looking for a new man, they're looking for a new version of themselves. They want to feel something again, to remember who they were before they became numb. But instead of healing, they choose distraction. And distraction never heals, it only delays the pain. The attention she receives feels like oxygen at first, but it's an illusion. Because the moment the excitement fades, she's left with the same emptiness she tried to escape. Only now it's mixed with guilt. She'll tell herself it wasn't that serious, that she had no choice, that she was already broken. But deep down she knows. She knows she had moments to stop, moments to turn around, moments to be honest. But she chose not to. And the hardest part to admit is that she didn't just betray her partner, she betrayed herself. Because every lie she told was a promise she broke to her own soul. What most men don't understand is that cheating doesn't begin with desire. It begins with emotional neglect. It begins when she starts feeling invisible. But what women don't realize is that once they justify dishonesty, they lose the power to truly heal. You can't build happiness on top of lies. You can't find peace through deception. Peace only comes through truth, even if it hurts. When a woman lies to herself, she creates a false reality to survive. But false realities always crumble. She can pretend she's fine, pretend she's justified, pretend it's love, but she'll never feel at peace. Because peace doesn't exist in secrecy. No matter how carefully she hides it, the truth always finds its way back. The tragedy is, most of this happens silently. She smiles, she plays her part, she tells herself everything's under control, but inside she's torn between guilt and desire, between what feels right and what feels easy. She's living in two worlds, one of truth, one of lies, and eventually both collapse. That's why the lies before cheating matter more than the act itself. Because they reveal the slow death of self-honesty. A woman doesn't lose her loyalty when she cheats. She loses it when she starts lying to herself about who she's becoming. Every small justification, every ignored voice of conscience, that's where the real betrayal begins. So no, it doesn't just happen. It's not an accident. It's not fate. It's choice after choice, lie after lie, until she's too deep to see her reflection clearly. And when she finally realizes what she's done, she won't just mourn the relationship, she'll mourn the part of herself she lost trying to protect her pain. Because in the end, the truth always wins. And no amount of lies can protect you from the silence that follows once everything falls apart.